it's time to review Spyro Year of the Dragon for the PlayStation. Year of the Dragon was released in 2000 and was the last Spyro game to be released for the PlayStation, as well as the last Spyro to be developed by Insomniac Games before they gave up with the character since they couldn't think of anything else to do with him, so they left the license with Universal while they did their own thing. Now, when I was a kid, I owned and played Year of the Dragon a fair bit, like a lot of you, but that was years ago. So how does the game hold up now? Is it the best Spyro game like some people say? Let's find out. The story begins in the Land of the Dragons, where Spyro and the other dragons are celebrating the Year of the Dragon, an event that occurs every 12 years when new dragon eggs are brought to the realm by fairies. During the celebration, however, a cloaked rabbit girl named Bianca invades the dragon realms with an army of rhinox and steals all of the dragon eggs, bringing them back to the sorceress who scatters the eggs throughout several worlds in the Forgotten Realms, which is on the other side of the world. Since Spyro and Hunter, don't ask, are the only ones small enough to fit into the holes leading to these worlds, they're sent to recover the dragon eggs and to defeat the sorceress. Year of the Dragon retains the same 3D platform gameplay from the first two games, where you have a large world to explore to find the dragon eggs and collect gems. The X button jumps, and you can glide by pressing X again and holding it while in the air. Square charges at enemies, circle breathes fire, and triangle allows you to look around the world fully, while L2 and R2 turn the camera around. You can get dragon eggs by completing tasks, doing minigames, saving people, or by simply finding them around the place. You'll find gems everywhere in baskets and daisies and killing enemies and a lot of other hidden places. The gems are used to pay money bags to open passages to get into certain places and free other characters. Speaking of which, that's a new feature of the game, extra playable characters. In the various worlds you explore, you get to play as Sheila, a kangaroo who specializes in high jumps and kicking people, Sgt.Byrd, a James Bond parody who flies around and shoots missiles, Bentley, a really smart Yeti who smacks people into flexibles with his club, Agent 9, a trigger-happy monkey who reminds you of Jim Carrey for some bizarre reason, Hunter, who has a grudge against sheep and UFOs oddly enough in the speedways, and even Sparks, who gets a lovely gameplay of a top-down shooter, which is basically like Gauntlet if you replace all the swords and staffs with machine guns. And as expected with my reviews, I do have a few criticisms for Year of the Dragon. For starters, there is a lot of variety in level design and themes, but a lot of them just aren't very memorable. There are also some mini-games that are very annoying to complete, like Racing Hunter in Lost Fleet, the Sparks levels, or boxing the Yeti from Colossus in Frozen Altars. Now, you're probably expecting me to complain about the other playable characters like other reviewers, but I actually don't mind them that much. I like Sheila and Sgt.Byrd's gameplay. I thought Agent 9 was okay, despite the odd Wolfenstein-esque gameplay in Fireworks Factory, and Bentley was kinda crap. Another issue, at least from my point of view, was the small loss of an atmosphere from Gateway to Glimmer, or Ripto's Rage if you prefer the American name, where you knew what a problem the world's inhabitants were having and you can enjoy the cutscenes that came before and after the levels. However, here you don't get that. The characters just have a problem and you have to solve it. It felt a bit more like the first game, where the worlds felt kind of lonely and it's not as easy to remember them. And speaking of not being that easy to remember, the bosses weren't very memorable either, and I still think Spyro 2's bosses were a lot better. And what's my biggest criticism of the game, you may ask? I am going to get killed by 10 million people, but it's the music. Now, I know a lot of people love Stuart Copeland's music for the series, and don't get me wrong, I like a lot of the music from the first two games. But a lot of tracks in Year of the Dragon were just either dull or forgettable. Hell, not even Fireworks Factory was as great as everyone kept saying it was. Also, in the European version, a fair amount of levels have music borrowed from other levels due to the other language tracks available, so music gets repeated quite a bit. And the Enchanted Towers track, in all honesty, can just go straight to hell. Don't worry, I do like a fair bit of the game. For starters, there's Bianca's character development. Anyone who's played the game knows what I'm talking about, but to those that don't know, Bianca's character develops subtly throughout the course of the game, and while I won't give anything away about the end of that, I will say the character development in general is 1,000 times better than that in the original Ratchet & Clank. And as I said before, I like Sheila and Sgt.Byrd's gameplay, as it was pretty fun and it did add some variety, and Spyro's gameplay is still as fun as ever. And even though I'm not a big fan of the music, there were at least a few good tracks in some of the levels. The graphics were also quite good, since it gave the game a cartoony feel, and you have a free-roaming 3D world working very well. And okay, despite a lot of cliched themes for levels, I'll give credit to Dynamite for having a ridiculously awesome premise of cowboy dinosaurs, despite the fact that it is hell to play through. Year of the Dragon is a fun game with some decent music, good graphics, fun gameplay, and great character development. But a lot of the music is either dull or forgettable, some of the challenges are very annoying, there isn't much of an atmosphere compared to Spyro 2, and a lot of levels are forgettable. out of all the Spyros in the PlayStation, this is my least favorite out of the three. While the original is by no means perfect or the best, it had a lot of large worlds to explore, and it had the hilarious name of Blowhard. While Gateway to Glimmer had a lot of good catchy music, the levels were memorable, and I did say that there was an atmosphere, and the holiness that is Autumn Plains. As for Year of the Dragon's rating, I'd give it a weak Jak and Daxter, meaning that it's only just good enough to get this rating. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to run for my life once again before one of the internet's many fan bases attempts to kill me again. Now, I'll see you for my next